Hello viewers, welcome to yet another exciting episode of BE Roundup, ET Brand Equity show where we analyze the marketing and advertising industry every week. And today, on popular demand, we have Mr. Shubho Sengupta to help us go through the analysis. Welcome sir, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, it's an honor, and popular demand is very gratifying indeed.
A very loved brand in this country, Dairy Milk, right? They just completed 70 years, right? And 70 years of their existence as well as 70 years of their marketing. I mean, we all know the Dairy Milk advertising story, which really launched Piyush Pandey, and Piyush Pandey's work was being known. How do you see the journey of this brand? One as a brand, and two as a marketer, as an advertiser.
You know, it was launched, I think, very few years before I joined advertising in the 90s, mid 90s. So it was, iconic, and
right.
I know it made Mr. Pandey, reputation, career, very well deserved, of course. And it was the benchmark for everything we did from, around that time to the next 10 years. Every client would say, well, do something like that for me, like this film, the girl dancing. But, since then, so many things have changed. I mean, primarily, I think the market has changed, right? Today we live in a day and age when, people are very health conscious, right? People look for organic, new products, I'm not very 100% sure what organic means, but, people are kind of gravitating towards, nutrition kind of thing. So a lot of market realities have moved around, a lot of newer audiences have come in. Like, I mean, of course, I still find this, this product and, smaller shops, but the large retail, large format stores, I don't see it that often. I see a lot of imports. I see a lot of Indian brands. In fact, there's a couple of friends of mine who also make this nutrition bars, for sports or whatever. So I see those in my face. I don't see this product too much, Right. And even my daughter, who's 14 years old, she mentions other brands, much newer brands,
Right,
and,
interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's kept up with the times, especially for the newer, younger audiences with newer, demands, right? I hope it makes a comeback. I'm aware of some new work they've done. Looks very interesting.
Right.
But my personal thing is, you have to create content, you have to reach out to masses through this.
Right.
I'm not sure if they have.
But staying onto Dairy Milk, they had innovated with a lot of variations in their product line, right? But why do you think it didn't really work? Was it the marketing that didn't cut across, or was it the product? Or one thing you mentioned is nutrition, but there might be other reasons as well.
There are always other reasons. I mean, including distribution, price points. There are 10, 15 reasons. But
right.
I have a feeling the newer audiences, the chocolate eating audiences,
right.
My daughter's age, slightly older, the things, the aspirations they have, perhaps are not,
right.
they've changed, I mean, Amitabh Bachchan, I think was the brand ambassador at some, I'm not sure if they relate to Mr. Bachchan, my daughter's generation. I'm not 100% sure, I'm not even sure if they relate to a lot of Bollywood icons that are, center stage right now. So it's a very fragmented kind of audience. I'm not claiming I understand this newer generation, newer audience, okay. But I do know that, the traditional icons that we kind of, use or still use, they are not clicking, they're not working anymore.
So, moving on, and interestingly, as you mentioned, Mr. Bachchan, right? This week we had a controversy around Kalyan Jewellers, which had Mr. Bachchan and his daughter in an ad, and there was a complaint from an association, bank association, and then so the controversy rolled out, and then eventually the brand had to pull off the advertising, right? What's your take? I mean, are we really that much touchy that a small ad becomes a matter of contention for us, so that the brand has to pull this off?
Yes, we are a very touchy nation, we like outraging, but this is a, opportunity to get some attention for this particular bank association.
Right.
So why not, I mean, we are in political season, so everyone has their little stakes to, protect or play around with.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But do you really think the ad was really,
Absolutely
intended?
not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And I mean, look at how Bollywood has portrayed, policemen, for example, right? I mean, not every policeman is, an honest, upright officer.
Right.
I haven't really heard of any police association from, wherever, asking them to take the film off air.
Right.
Is it just a cheap attention-seeking kind of thing? The bankers should be, or this section of bankers, they should be more focusing on giving, stopping bad loans. I think that's what they should focus on. Yeah.
Staying onto the market scenario, right? HTC, which kind of introduced the Android concept into India, right?
Right. Right.
Sadly, they are, they're moving out of the market in India.
Yeah.
And obviously, there are other leaders who are, who have kept up to the game. But do you think, again, it rolls back onto how brands keep up to the game, right? Do you think it's the same case here, or there are some other factors? Basically, what's your take on?
It's broadly the same case. HTC, HTC is not just the one to pull out the market. There are a lot of Indian brands which are kind of besieged by the Chinese onslaught, right? I mean, if you remember 5 years back, there were at least 3-4 Indian brands, one of which had already gone global, using a Hollywood superstar or something, I can't remember, right? Where are they now? They're nowhere, right? So it's not just HTC. I think HTC kind of held on because of its dollars, for a little longer while, but it's not just HTC, there's a lot of other phone brands too, right? Also, there's also an imagery issue. I think HTC, I remember about 7-10 years back, was like Apple. It was a revered kind of brand.
It was a business phone, right?
Yeah, it was revered. So I don't know if they built on from there. Right. I'm not sure if they did anything to take that forward.
Right.
I think that was an opportunity missed, which is why they're paying now. One core issue. One core area is they don't understand the Indian consumer that well. I've got the feeling with a lot of brands. Okay, and maybe the hype carries you forth, for a while, but at some point, you start paying for it. Even the Chinese brands, which are, top of the mind all over, the online e-commerce right now, couple of them seem a little weak on fundamentals. So, if they're pumping in a lot of money, you see it in your face and it's a great deal, 10,000 rupees, 100 GB, whatever storage or something, you'll buy it, okay, also because everyone else is buying it, but some fundamentals seem a little shaky, I mean, there is no major differentiator between brand A, B or C in some areas. So I'm not sure if, the number one right now will be around, say, 2 years from now or even earlier.
Interestingly, you mentioned about consumer habits and consumer behavior, right? One interesting change that I might be wrong in this, and please correct me, right? That I am seeing on my discussions with a lot of people is the video consumption patterns of Indians are changing. At least the urban Indians are changing. I'll tell you how, right? I have met people who have given up their DTH connections, right, and moved on to smart TV platforms.
Right.
That's where the players like Netflix and Amazon Prime and so on and so forth are catching on or trying to catch on, right? How do you see? Am I right, or in this assessment, or how do you see it going forward?
It is urban, but it's kind of moving to non-urban, rural, smaller towns also, I was talking to a colleague a couple of days back. He was he just taken a Netflix connection on his mobile phone, that is, okay. So, and he was watching Sacred Games. Yeah, so Varun Grover, if he's watching,
Right.
So, and he took a connection at 8 in the evening and he was watching it till 4 in the morning.
Same,
right.
I did,
So his father stepped into the room and thought he was watching porn. Right. Okay. So he was saying it is so addictive.
Yeah,
and so I have a feeling there's a big mobile audience out there also who are watching Netflix or Amazon or whatever it is.
Right.
So yes, so those viewership habits are changing. People always seek good content, like your show, right? So at some point, the tried and tested, same Bollywood, same astrology and all that doesn't work. I think that has begun now in the last 1 year.
What kind of role will content play in getting those people or transferring those people from, say, the TV platform to this one?
Yeah, it's always, content and technology, that sweet spot where these two meet,
Right.
that always works, or works most of the time, right? There are other platforms also besides Netflix. I mean, I believe there are about 300,
Yes, a
content
lot of regional
companies.
players are also there.
Yeah, there are about 300 content companies that came up in the last 1 year, right? Not just Netflix.
We have spoken about consumption patterns. We have spoken about the market. One thing that really a lot of Indians are looking forward is the 2019 elections. And as you rightly said, right, it is a election time, right? How do you see this one, affecting the advertising spends? Because this is a question that I kind of go back to, because 2014 was we saw how big a game changer it was, right? So I remember Mr. Sam Balsara once mentioned 2014 elections were actually fought on media. How do you see the same thing happening, and is there a digital play involved in this? How big a digital play involved in this?
Oh, hugely. I mean, I remember there were a lot of political parties which weren't sure about digital. Even though they were doing some digital, but this time, digital would take a very, very key role. I mean, television, print is not going away. Okay, but digital spends will, maybe double or treble. I'm pretty sure about that. And especially at a local level. I mean, it's not just the bigger digital platforms, but the local, hyper-local kind of approach will be taken. So content will be very different from, say, Jorhat and even Dibrugarh. The local issues will come out, and that you can do on mobile, right?
It allows you to do that.
Yeah. So I hope, I'm sure there are, every political party has a mobile specialist, who's thinking mobile, not just digital. Digital is very vague, everything is digital. Even outdoors is digital these days, right? True. But someone who's thinking of mobile, of targeting, people like that, even companies who do, hyper-local kind of targeting approach, whatever. So they'll do well.
You have been in this industry for a long time, and you have seen the industry evolve in front of you, right? How do you see the industry growing up, and some pertinent challenges that are grappling the industry currently, and how to address them?
We were discussing a little while ago, right? Advertising has to start playing a different game. I mean, the ad agencies, marketers, people like me, you've got to start playing a different game. It's no longer the one size fits all. It's too fragmented right now. I come across a lot of, I mean, to give you an example, I come across a lot of digital agencies which walk in the door saying we do social media. So most clients, and I'm talking about smaller to mid-sized clients, also do create their own content, do their own social media, right? And so all that was, still valid for a couple of, till, 3-4 years back. Now the game has changed completely in the last 3-4 years. So, marketers need to walk in and say, what is your problem? Right. What is the problem that I can solve? I have a tech approach to your problems, or I have a content approach to your problems, or I have a media, whatever approach. It is no longer advertising. Advertising is, on its, last legs. I mean, unless there is a Piyush Pandey approach that will stay for a while, right? We love big films, big budgets, etc. But the long tail, which is where the action really is, the game needs to change. Some people are doing very well, including some people from your organization, some units, but overall it's I can see a lot of people my age and who lead large companies, marketers, etc. They're not thinking fast enough, they're not moving fast enough. They're still in the 90s perhaps.
Right. And interestingly, you mentioned about advertising agencies, right? The same kind of thing goes for the publishers as well, I guess, right? Though they are innovating a lot, right? Yeah. As we are discussing, right? Major brands are creating their own content arms, right?
Right.
So do you see that more, going forward, the publishers will just be used for their inventory and not the content creation part, and how to basically, fight this, or stay alive in this?
Yeah, that's a very unfortunate part. The Excel sheet approach, where it's just the usual suspects. That shows that you're not using technology. You're not fragmenting your audience. You don't even know what the content is. I've seen a lot of times. People don't even know. The same content is blasted across to different audiences, right? So there are smart people out there who have taking a little holistic kind of approach, but most, I'd say about 90-95% are taking the same you know, one size fits all approach. You know, there is no respect for the latest technology tools which can help you, you know, take a better decision.
Right. So hopefully, sir, that till the next time we meet, things change and we end on a very optimistic note. Thank you so much for being a part of this show today.
Thank you. Always.
Thank you, viewers. So that's it from us today. Till next week, stay tuned to VT Brand.